Now I am going to stamp with the Gorgeous Grape and Highland Heather. Excuse me. And just one second. The Mango Melody for the insert. And just let me show you how quickly this all comes together. Now, if you're not familiar with how we use photopolymer stamps, let me show you real quickly how this works. So all of Stampin' Up's stamps come in what looks like the old CD cases that you used to get your movies on, but luckily we don't do that anymore. And you have an image on the front, and this one says it's shown at 90%, so you can see these are not full size, but that's okay. And when you open it, this is what you're going to find inside your stamps. You will have, depending on the number of stamps in it, you will have the inside of the liner will have the images printed on the inside. Can you see that? So you can see that they're printed there. And then what will happen is the stamps then adhere to the inside of the case. And so you will know when you're missing one, you can always say, okay, there's a stamp that goes there. Now these are called photopolymer stamps. These are clear rubber or photopolymer, and they simply cling to the blocks, which that's what I find so fascinating, is that they're just a static cling to the block. So I'm going to get all these little stamps out and line them up over here. And I'm just going to show you how easily this whole little set comes together. Okay, now what you saw when I opened my box, when I buy stamps and I buy the coordinating dies with them, I often will, they are made such that they will land in here and store in here the same way. I actually buy a third-party magnetic paper or magnetic card that is nice and heavy. You can see that that's nice and heavy, and I simply store my dies inside my envelope, inside my box. That also gives me the option. These are some other color combinations that I've used, and we'll talk about those in a second. So just like a CD case, you just snap it closed. Now something we might want to do is make sure you've got your chamois out where you can clean off your stamps. And then all we're going to do is, with these acrylic stamps, you simply just put them on the acrylic block and they stay. They stay just like that. Now, one of the things I do want to say is that if it's something that is thin, for instance, if it's a long sentiment, you're not going to want to adhere it directly to that. You're going to want to lay it on your card stock or on your table, kind of let it drop around like that so that it goes back to what it's straight, and then you just simply come over and pick it up. Okay, so let's start with the background, and I'm going to show you a couple of different things to think about when you're using the pansies, and this all goes to your personal preference on how you want your pansies to look. And let me just tell you, this is my Bob Ross moment. You know, there's no right or wrong. You can have them look any way you want. So if you want dark purple, then you can have dark purple. So I'm going to start here with Highland Heather. And I'm going to stamp one impression. I'm going to come over here and stamp it again just because there's still a little bit of ink left on that stamp, and you get a nice, very faint impression. Now I'm going to do that again and do one more that's full strength of the Highland Heather for the background of the pansy. Now, something else I want to show you is that with Stampin' Up, our stamp pads are self-locking and self-closing. They also stack very well, but they come with labels so that you can see from when you store this what color you're looking at. Also, if you have it out, you can see what color it is. But Stampin' Up was smart enough to realize that people also needed to know what color it is, and so there's actually a little sticker that coordinates to the stamp, the ink color inside as well. Okay, So we're going to put that to the side, and we're going to come in and we're going to stamp some of these details with this gorgeous grape. Actually, we're going to stamp some of the details with Highland Heather first, because sometimes I like looking at tone on tone. I think that's an interesting way to do things. And the best way to do tone on tone, and then let me also say that this does not, you don't line it up perfectly, but you can see that there are little spots right here where the two petals come in. So all I'm going to do is, without stamping off, I'm going to use the original image, and I'm going to use Highland Heather and stamp on that. And see how easy that was? And you get a perfectly stamped image. Now, as we know, we have a little bit of Highland Heather left on this stamp. So we're going to come over here and we're going to stamp on top of this and see what happens. Well, now that's interesting. Did I dip it back in the ink? I might have. Well, that's a mistake. Oopsie. But as they say, every piece of paper has two sides for a good reason. So we're going to come back over here and we're going to use this in Gorgeous Grape and do the same thing and show the Gorgeous Grape on top of the Highland Heather. So you get an even more vibrant look, and you can see a lot of difference there. Now, there are a multitude of colors and shading that you can go with. If you even wanted to, you could take your sponge daubers and on your solid stamp, you could actually put Highland Heather on the outer part and then come in with your sponge daubers and put the Gorgeous Grape or Fresh Freesia or any of the lavenders. We have 5 lavenderish colors, lavenderish purplish colors, and so you can do any number of color coordinations or color combinations there. Now let's finish up this particular flower, and let's just, now what I have here is called the Stamp Chamois. This is a damp sponge type product that when you first see it, it's purple and it's beautiful and pristinely clean, but as soon as you put ink on it, as soon as you start cleaning off your stamps, it gets ink on it, and the ink does not transfer back off of this. I do go through and rinse this with cold water about once a week just to get all the excess ink off. I just do that in the sink, and then that also maintains this to be damp, because you want this to be damp. If it's not damp, it'll curl up on the edges and get a little coarse. But it's you can stamp it like this and clean it like this, or I'll even take it sometimes and do this to get down into the crevices of different stamps. Okay, so let's finish up this stamp. So for the pansy center, we have this piece that is going to go right here. And the other thing about these clear stamps is that you can line them up like this. I mean, this is something that I think is fascinating. So you can come back and say, okay, well, I'm going to stamp that, and I'm going to stamp that. And so these two pieces actually line up here into the center. Actually, it's these three pieces. There we go. This one lines up here. And then we can use one or the other. I'll use the middle one to do the final details on that. So let me stick that on there. Let's see. And I'm using Highland Heather for that. But I could have used the Gorgeous Grape, or I could have left that part plain white and just let this be very stark contrast. And then we'll come back in and we'll do this. And so there you have your little pansy. Easy squeezy. Was it easy peasy lemon squeezy? That's super easy to do. So let's do that one more time, and we're going to use it on this one. And then we'll come in with the Gorgeous Grape and do that. And there you have that. Now that is pretty cute in and of itself, and so you could stamp on a card, and that could be the front of your card. You could also now take this and run it through your cut and emboss machine with the dies that we talked about earlier, and that would give you the ability to make this a little bit more dimensional. You could always put this up on dimensionals on your card to give it some depth. So we'll do that. Now let me do the one last thing, which I think really makes a big difference in these pansies. Let me find a tiny little block. Let me get this. And this looks to me almost, I think it looks like a little cat's nose. It's just a tiny little triangle. But we're going to take this Mango Melody and open, okay. And we're going to stamp it. And I think it goes this way. I think it's like that and like that. And so there you have the detail of the classic pansy. Like I said, I'm going to spend some time later this month playing with all the different purples and the pinks and the yellows and even some of the deeper reds to really try to replicate a bunch of the pansy colors that happen in nature. So that's the way to show you. Oh, I do have two other stamps over here. Let me get these smaller ones out and let me show you these. So in addition to the two large pansies that we have, we also have a smaller not two, but we have a smaller pansy as well, which I'm going to basically do the same thing that we did earlier. We will stamp, in this particular case, I'm using Highland Heather. And y'all, I'm really not a purple fan, but I'll tell you, these two colors, the Highland Heather and the Gorgeous Grape, really have grown on me. I'll tell you that. And then we're going to come back with the Highland Heather again and do our little details. Now normally I would actually get all up on top of this so it perfectly lines up, but I don't want to put my head in the screen. So you can see though, easy, like I said, two stamped images, and there you have a tiny, not a tiny, but a smaller pansy that complements this one as well. So then you can use, again, Mango Melody, or I tell you what, this time we're going to use Daffodil Delight just to change up the color just a little bit, just to have some variety. And let's go ahead and clean that, make sure it's clean. So we'll just do this with Daffodil Delight. And so that's more of a yellow. The Mango Melody has a little bit of orange in it, so, but you can even see the differences in the colors this way as well. So let me bring this up to the paper up a little bit so you can see the differences in the colors and the details in those stamps. I mean, this is beautiful. Photopolymers, and like I said, because they're clear, and when you work on them when you're not on camera, you can lean over the stamps and you can really see a lot of what you're doing, and you can line things up perfectly. Let's see, there we go. All right, so let's put this over here to the side.